You're entering the future-ready CNBC-TV18 EBIX Cash Studio.
Hi guys, good morning and welcome to the CNBC-TV18 EBIX Cash Studio in the Mumbai News Center. I'm Pavitra Parekh. You're tuned into Power Breakfast, and let's get started by bringing you our top headlines. It's a broad-based rally on Wall Street with the key indices closed with gains of over 1%. Federal Reserve Chief Jerome Powell says he does see rate hikes ahead, although implications from the Russia-Ukraine war for the U.S. economy are highly uncertain. The Fed chair says he favors a 25 basis points rate hike in March, which calmed investor fears. It's a positive opening for the Asian markets. Kospi fares the best with gains of over 1%. The SGX Nifty suggests a flat start for our own market. Oil prices climbed to the highest level in more than a decade. Brent crude nears the $117 a barrel mark. OPEC and allies, including Russia, decide to hold oil production steady for the month. Heavy bombing continues in the eastern city of Kharkiv as Russia's invasion of Ukraine enters the 8th day. United Nations General Assembly asked Russia to unconditionally withdraw its troops following voting on resolution which was supported by 141 nations, while 35, including India, abstained from voting. All right, those are all of the top headlines that we're tracking this morning. We'll get to all of those individual stories in just a bit. But first up, a look at the global markets. We got a solid handover from Wall Street. And on the back of that, you have all of the Asian markets which have opened up well in the green. So Kospi doing the best. Actually, it is up over, it's around 1.5% higher right now. So that one clearly doing the best. Taiwan Straits, all of them seeing good gains. So Taiwan is seeing gains of 0.7%. Nikkei is 0.5% in the green. So that's the kind of gain that you're seeing coming across the board for the Asian markets, reflecting the sort of strong handover that we got from Wall Street. The SGX Nifty will also come up for you, and that is indicating a slightly positive start for our own markets. It's around a 35-point up move on the SGX Nifty. So that's what's happening in the Asian markets. The Dow futures, by the way, are a little bit lower, so they're around 60 points in the red. But let's also talk about what happened on Wall Street then. We ended Wednesday's trading session higher after a sharp rebound. So the Dow added almost 600 points. The S&P 500 was up 80 and the Nasdaq gained 220 points at the close. CNBC's Seema Modi is standing by to get us all of that action.
U.S. markets finishing the day higher after a sharp rebound. The Dow adding 596 points, S&P up 80, and the Nasdaq tacking on 219 points. Fed Chair Jerome Powell telling lawmakers that interest rate hikes are still coming despite recent volatility from the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Powell also told the House Financial Services Committee that he would propose a 25 basis point rate hike at the upcoming Fed meeting after some Fed officials suggested a 50-point raise. Shares of Ford ending the day higher by 8% after the automaker said it will separate its electric vehicle and legacy businesses. Analysts expect the split to streamline the company's growing EV business and maximize profits, with Ford projecting a 10% operating profit by 2026. And Amazon in focus, trimming its physical retail footprint. The e-commerce giant is closing 68 brick-and-mortar stores, including its bookstores. But Amazon says it remains committed to building physical retail stores, including the recently announced Amazon Style Store in Los Angeles. And that's the action from the U.S. market. Back to you in Mumbai.
All right, Seema, thanks a lot for getting us all of that action. In fact, staying with the U.S., Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has also said that he sees rate hikes ahead, although implications from the Russia-Ukraine war for the U.S. economy are highly uncertain at this point. CNBC's Steve Leisman is standing by with the details.
Fed Chair Jay Powell firmly saying he will propose and support a 25 basis point rate hike in March, weighing in heavily, as it does when the Fed chair says something like this, on a debate that had taken place among Fed officials in public.
I do think it will be appropriate to raise our target range for the federal funds rate at the March meeting in a couple of weeks, and I'm inclined to propose and support a 25 basis point rate hike.
That's not Evans, that's not Bullard, that's not Mester, that's Powell, the Fed chair, saying that. He said there was no obvious initial impact in the funding markets from the Ukraine invasion, despite some fears that it could create systemic risk. But he said the medium and longer term effects were unknown, and it was a reason for the Fed to go carefully.
We do intend to raise interest rates this year, as we've said. But as long as we're in this very sensitive phase of events in Eastern Europe, we're going to be careful in doing so. We're going to move, avoid adding uncertainty.
Powell called the Ukraine conflict a potential game changer for the Fed and the economy. But in the near term, there is no plans to change the game in the Fed's plans to raise rates at the March meeting.
All right, so Jerome Powell supporting a 25 basis point rate hike in March, and that's what really has calmed investor sentiment. And we also did see that big rally come through from the U.S. markets. But that's what's happening globally. How will all of these overnight cues impact our own market? We have our research team joining in to tell you exactly that and to take you through the trade setup this morning. Sonia, Nupur and Mangalam all join me now. Hi guys, a very good morning to all of you. And Sonia, let me come across to you first. We were just talking about the global cues which continue to dominate. But we did see that big session come through on Wall Street. So take us through everything we should watch.
Oh, absolutely. We begin the day with some green on the screen, which will come through as a big respite for the bulls, right? The SGX Nifty is indicating that the start will be up in the green. The Dow had a very strong session overnight. The Japanese markets are well in the green this morning as well. As you just heard a while back, the reason why there's been a big respite globally is because the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, has said that it's appropriate for the Fed to go ahead and raise the rates on the 15th of March meeting. However, he is in favor of a 25 basis points rate hike versus a 50 basis points rate hike. And that's something that the street has definitely liked. However, oil continues to rise, and that's something that could be, an overhang on the market. OPEC has held the output steady despite Russia's war on Ukraine, and Brent crude topped $113 a barrel. Not just that, FIs continue to sell in large quantities, whether it's in the cash markets or in the futures market. So yesterday, FIs sold over 4,300 crores in the cash markets. They were selling off over 3,200 crores in the futures market as well. And the domestic investors bought about 3,000 odd crores or so. The important levels to watch, remember last week, the intraday low that we hit last week was about 16,200. So that's an important level to watch on the downside. And on the upside, the level to watch is the 200-day moving average, which stands at 16,923. A couple of key events to watch in the next fortnight. One is that the US jobs report for February is due tomorrow. Economists are expecting 440,000 jobs versus a 467,000 increase that we saw in January. The jobs data will be important in the context of what the Fed goes ahead and does on its 15th March policy, and that's the next big thing to watch out for. Apart from that, in India, you have the state election results that come through on the 10th of March, so that's something that the street will watch for closely. But other than that, this morning, after many days of volatility, there's some respite on the screen.
Absolutely. So let's see, perhaps we'll get a start in the green and then we'll see how the rest of the trading session pans out. Thanks, Sonia, for taking us through all of those cues. But let's also talk about the stocks which are likely to be in focus in today's trading session. And Nupur is standing by with that entire list. Nupur.
Well, Parida, let me start with UPL, where board has approved share buyback worth 1,100 crores at a price of 875 rupees per share, which is like 27% premium to its yesterday's closing, and it's via open market route. So UPL will be in focus today. Vedanta, as company declares third interim dividend of 13 rupees per share, and the total payment outlays around 4,832 crores. Moving on to then some positive news coming in for Phoenix Mills, PVR, Inox, Barbecue Nation. Maharashtra government allows all these shopping centers, cinema halls to operate with 100% capacity. So keep an eye on all these players. Crude further inches higher, so OMCs and paint companies will be in focus today. Apart from that, Hind Rectifiers company has received order worth 57 crore in the last month, so all these stocks will be in focus.
All right, Nupur, thanks a lot for that. We will keep all of these stocks on our radar. Finally, let's talk about F&O cues, and Mangalam has all of that for us. Good morning.
Well, it's Thursday, it's the weekly options expiry, and the last couple of trading sessions, Nifty's managed to hold on to the lows even as it closed lower yesterday. 16,478 was the low of yesterday's trading session, which was identical to Feb 25 as well. What's not doing well is the way the FIIs are selling in the cash market and index futures. 4,300 crore worth sale come by yesterday as well. Net institutional outflow of almost 1,300 odd crores. And then there was a huge jump in open interest for both the Nifty as well as the Nifty Bank. The Nifty Bank saw an open interest jump of almost 30%, and that's telling you a lot of shorts were added out there. That index underperformed. Index futures, the FI sold 3,200 crores. Index options close to around 500 crores, and stock futures close to 1,250 crores as well. What is it that they did in index futures? Well, they added close to around 34,000 shorts and covered 5,000 longs, and as a result of which their long exposure now stands back at 47%. which is again net short and lower than what we started the series with as well. And apart from that, they wrote more calls as well. 65,000 calls is what they wrote as against 20,000 puts. So that's telling you any sort of up move will have a fair amount of resistance. So if the market sustains at lows or highs in today's trading session, we will probably see a fair amount of short covering as well. Just watch out for a couple of stocks. A lot of long positions added on HDFC Life and a lot of shorts added on Dr. Reddy's.
All right, Mangalam, Sonia, Nupur, thanks a lot for joining us and taking us through the trade setup this morning. With that, it's time for our first short break in the show. But when we come back, we get you the latest on the geopolitical developments and the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which is underway. Stay tuned for that. Welcome back. You're still watching Power Breakfast, and as promised, let's get you the latest on the Russia-Ukraine crisis. As the invasion intensifies, the United Nations says nearly 230 Ukrainian civilians have been killed so far in the war. NBC's Richard is standing by with that update.
Russia's offensive is growing more indiscriminate and destructive, raining down on Ukrainian towns and cities. This is the aftermath of a missile attack on the police headquarters in Kharkiv, a besieged eastern city about the size of Philadelphia. The city is surrounded. The mayor says there's been massive destruction. The UN says nearly 230 Ukrainian civilians have been killed so far. The number could be much higher. Just outside the capital, Russia attacked a residential neighborhood. Rescuers scrambled to search for survivors. Russia attacked Kiev's television tower. It's right next to the city's historic Babyn Yar Holocaust Memorial. Russia claims its goal now is to overthrow Ukraine's government, calling it a new Nazi regime. Ukraine's Jewish President Zelensky accused Russia of distorting history and called on Jews around the world to come to the nation's defense. Zelensky tweeting, "What is the point of saying never again if the world stays silent when a bomb drops on the same site of Babyn Yar?" A senior U.S. defense official says while Russia has increased missile and artillery attacks on the capital, a convoy heading toward the city is still stalled. But that Russian forces advancing from the south are making progress. The Kremlin insists tough sanctions imposed by President Biden and the West, isolating its banks and oligarchs, though allowing Russia to keep selling its oil and gas will not deter Russia's so-called special military action. But every day, more brave Ukrainians, many without weapons, are standing up to Russian occupiers. This crowd confronting Russian troops in Berdyansk and south of Kiev, stopping a convoy of Russian vehicles. A Russian soldier showing restraint fires into the air. He seems not to know how to respond. Russian troops were told they'd be greeted as liberators, freeing Ukraine from a hated radical government. But that's not the response they're seeing now.
Both Ukraine and Russia have agreed to a second attempt at peace talks. But here in Kiev, they're not optimistic about a ceasefire. The mayor telling residents to stock up and be ready.
All right, that's the latest coming out of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and you just saw all of those visuals. But sticking with that, Russia's invasion of Ukraine was denounced by the United Nations General Assembly, which condemned Russia and called on Moscow to unconditionally withdraw its troops. Parikshit is joining us with the latest on this. Parikshit?
Well, we saw some strong speeches by the Ukrainian ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations while this vote was on, and eventually 141 members of the UN General Assembly voted in favor of the draft resolution, which said that Russia should immediately withdraw troops and de-escalate and must ensure that peace is restored. At the same time, India, UAE, China were among the 5 countries which abstained from voting. There were also 35 countries which voted against it. But 144 members supporting it meant that the UN General Assembly overwhelmingly supported this resolution against Russia. India justified the abstention by saying that we believe that only diplomacy is the way out. We need to ensure that there is a safe passage for Indian nationals who are stuck, especially in Kharkiv. The Indian ambassador and several other diplomats spoke about the Indian national and condoled the loss of life in this attack. India said that it is abstaining because it believes that only diplomacy and talks can resolve this issue.
All right, Pariksha, thanks a lot for getting us the latest on that. In fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also spoke to Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday. The Prime Minister's office in a statement said that the leaders reviewed the situation in Ukraine, especially in its second largest city of Kharkiv, and discussed the safe passage of Indian nationals from conflict zones. So that's what's happening as far as the Indian government's stance on this is concerned. In fact, with the government starting its Operation Ganga in order to try and evacuate Indian students from Ukraine, CNN News 18's Maha Siddiqui gets us a ground report from Poland.
I'll quickly show you around now. A bus has been arranged here at the border in Budimez, where they are putting in all their luggage in now, but they have made their way to the Polish border all by themselves. Many of them are extremely emotional right now because they've actually gone through a very harrowing time. Are you coming from Kharkiv as well?
We all are coming from Kharkiv.
Okay.
Too bad.
I know, I can understand. What was the situation over there? Can you take us through how you have managed to come here?
It's too dangerous. We managed by ourselves and our friends. We coming by walking by foot and then bombarding it from like 2 meters, 3 meters like this way. I can't explain, so bad situation.
What's your name?
Sahil Kumar Chawla.
And where were you studying?
Kharkiv National University.
Okay, I won't hold you anymore.
We are from the Kharkiv.
Yes,
coming from
absolutely.
together.
So now they are all boarding the bus and they will make their way now to India. They have really gone through the worst in life that they could have seen. At least the manner in which they are explaining their ordeal is bone-chilling. In Budimez, this is Maha Siddiqui reporting for CNN News 18.
All right, extremely hard to watch those visuals, but that is a lot of the Indian students who have made their way to the Ukraine-Poland border all by themselves, and many of them are coming from Kharkiv. We'll keep bringing you updates on this through the day as well. For now, we'll get into a short break, but when we come back, we discuss the commodity space that is in focus. Crude is at almost $117 a barrel. More on that after the short break. Welcome back. You're still watching Power Breakfast, and as promised, let's talk about the commodity space. Manisha Gupta joins us with a quick update. Hi, Manisha. Good morning. We were just talking about the Russia-Ukraine crisis, and that continues to be in focus, and that's what's having an effect on commodities as well. Crude is now at $118.
Well, yes, it's pointless now talking about numbers because even as it has been overbought for some time now, but the momentum is still on the higher side. And the reason the last surge that has come in for crude is after U.S. says that they are open to imposing sanctions on Russian oil and gas flow. It is just that the timing is not right today. So that statement really has taken the prices even much more higher. We anyways have seen traders and banks shy away from Russian oils via pipelines or tankers for that matter. IEA says that the energy situation in the world is serious and demands full attention. You also have seen Trafigura go ahead and freeze investments in Russia. So we already are seeing a lot of self-sanctions coming in for Russian oil and gas. There are delivery issues, there are payment issues, and the markets already are dealing with supply concerns in the global markets. So much more higher sides for crude from here on is what the street is talking about. So the next targets we are hearing about is $120, $125, $127 per barrel on the charts there. But it's not just crude. Take a look at the metal prices, a huge run up here. You have nickel hitting a new 10-year highs. Aluminum is trading at an all-time high. You have the coal prices trading at all-time highs of $400 per ton. So everywhere that you look, commodities as a tangible asset class seems to be running up, and Russia and Ukraine being major producers, exporters, global trade powerhouses there, we are looking at various supply deficits coming in for many markets.
All right, Manisha, thanks a lot for bringing us that update. We will keep coming back to you on this through the day as well. We're completely out of time on the show. The Asian markets are all in the green. The Kospi, in fact, is almost 1.5% higher, and the SGX Nifty around 25 points in the green as we speak. With that, we're completely out of time on this edition of Power Breakfast. Thanks for tuning in. Bazaar Morning Call comes up in 2.